Little Jane's first plane trip was filled with excitement, but when lightning struck the aircraft, she found herself as the only one capable of saving everyone, and her world would be forever changed. The airport was buzzing with its usual activity as Kate and her 5-year-old daughter Jane arrived for their inaugural flight to Orlando. It was their first time heading to Disney World, and both mother and daughter were dressed comfortably, ready for the long flight. "I'm so excited, Mom. I really want to meet Mickey," exclaimed Jane, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Me too, sweetheart. This trip is going to be very special and we'll have a lot of fun together," replied her mother, smiling. As Kate navigated the airport, Jane hopped with joy, unable to contain her energy. They stopped at some shops and bought Disney character stickers to decorate their luggage. They also paused to listen to a group of musicians playing tunes. Jane, caught up in the music, began to dance, drawing the attention of fellow travelers who applauded the little girl. Proudly, Kate recorded the entire scene to share with family. During boarding, Jane assisted her mother with the luggage, and the sticker shop attendant, noticing the girl's enchantment, gifted her a very special sticker. "Look, Mom, I got a Bon Voyage sticker," exclaimed Jane, showing it to Kate. Her mother smiled and said, "Oh, that's cool, dear. Let's put it on your passport. It'll look great." After completing the necessary procedures, mother and daughter entered the boarding area, finding a small play area for children where Jane played while they waited. She had fun interacting with other kids. Finally, the time for the flight arrived, and Kate and Jane headed to the boarding line. Jane questioned her mother about how airplanes could fly so high in the sky. "Is the plane like a big bird, Mom?" asked the little girl, fascinated by the idea. "Exactly, my love," replied her mother, smiling. When their turn came, they boarded the plane and were greeted by a friendly flight attendant who helped them settle into their seats. Jane could hardly contain her excitement, eagerly looking out the airplane window, anticipating takeoff. "Look, Mom, we're flying!" exclaimed the little girl, radiant. "Yes, dear, we're flying," replied her mother, affectionately squeezing Jane's hand. The pilot made the usual announcements, providing information about the weather, flight time, and safety instructions. Kate helped Jane adjust her seatbelt, while the little girl tried to absorb each given instruction. "Now we're ready for takeoff," said her mother, adjusting her own seatbelt. The plane started its ascent, and Jane could hardly contain her excitement. She watched attentively through the window, following every movement of the aircraft. Curious, she asked her mother how such a large and heavy plane could fly. "Mom, how can such a big and heavy plane fly?" inquired the little girl, impressed. "Well, sweetheart, the plane has wings and engines that allow it to fly," explained her mother. As the plane gained altitude, the lights came on, signaling that passengers could move freely. Kate took out paper and colored pencils to entertain Jane during the flight. Excited about the journey, Jane drew a colorful airplane with the word Disney on it. After a while, a flight attendant served drinks and snacks. Jane chose orange juice and cookies, and Kate was also overjoyed. This would be a trip that Jane would remember as a very special moment between the two of them. Kate had saved for a long time to provide this magical journey for her daughter. It would be Jane's first visit to Disney, and Kate wanted everything to be perfect. She hoped to make this trip a relief for both of them, especially after the challenging times they had faced. Recently divorced, Kate had faced difficulties that impacted little Jane, who missed her father's presence at home. Kate also juggled work, single-handedly raising her daughter and dealing with the challenges of being a single mother. "Dear, I know our lives have been very tough lately, but things will get better. This trip will be a lot of fun, and we'll have a great time together," reassured the mother, trying to lift her daughter's spirits. "I know, Mom. I miss Dad, and it's hard, but it's okay. We'll have a lot of fun," replied the little girl. If you enjoyed this story, surely the next video that appears on your screen will also move you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Soulful Messages channel, give it a thumbs up, and activate the notification bell to not miss any of our upcoming videos. In recent months, Kate had devoted herself entirely to taking care of her daughter alone and maintaining the household routine as normally as possible. She made an effort to spend more quality time with Jane, engaging in fun activities to compensate for the absence of her father. Despite maintaining a friendly relationship with her ex-husband, allowing Jane to visit him whenever she wanted, there were still some disagreements between Kate and her ex-husband, noticeable to Jane. "I'm so sorry for everything, dear. I promise that when we return from this trip, I'll sort things out with your dad, okay?" assured the mother. "I know, Mom. I love you," replied the little girl, hugging her mother. The trip to Disney was Kate's way of showing her love and dedication to Jane. Her only wish was for her daughter to experience a magical moment and forget about their troubles. Kate hoped that Jane would feel loved and secure. "When we get to Disney, we'll enjoy everything and meet all the characters you want, dear. It's going to be a lot of fun," said Kate excitedly. "Yes, it will be the best trip ever," affirmed the little girl, smiling. However, no one on board could predict that, in a matter of hours, their lives would be forever transformed. The journey to Orlando was expected to last approximately 8 hours, and everything seemed to be progressing normally. Passengers were comfortable in their seats, enjoying the long journey. Some were sleeping, others were watching movies, and some were chatting about their destinations. However, after almost 4 hours of flight, a sudden storm began to form, and the plane encountered turbulence. Due to the storm, the pilot couldn't establish contact with the control tower, forcing quick decisions to ensure everyone's safety. Turbulence continued, and all passengers began to grow anxious. "Mom, I'm scared," said Jane, gripping her mother's hand. "It's okay, just turbulence. It will pass soon. Don't worry," reassured Kate, trying to calm her daughter. However, she was apprehensive herself. To regain contact with the control tower, the pilot needed to exit the storm, increasing the plane's altitude. However, no one foresaw that, in attempting to gain altitude, the plane would be struck by lightning, compromising all control systems of the aircraft. Lights went out, the plane began to shake violently, and oxygen masks were deployed. Passengers panicked, screaming in fear, "We're gonna die!" Flight attendants struggled to be heard, instructing on the proper use of oxygen masks. The situation was chaotic, and Jane was even more frightened. "We're going to die! We're going to die!" cried a desperate woman. The flight attendants called for calm and asked everyone to remain in their seats. Jane, holding her mother's hand tightly, tried to comprehend what was happening. "Everything will be fine, dear. Let's just do what the lady said. Put on the seatbelts and oxygen masks, okay?" Kate instructed, following the given instructions. The next minutes were filled with terror and despair. The pilot and the crew fought to avoid a crash, attempting to restore the plane's systems to call for help from the control tower. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot. I want to inform you that we've been struck by lightning and are experiencing technical difficulties. We've lost contact with the tower, but we're working to resolve the issue. Please remain seated and follow the crew's instructions," communicated the pilot, trying to keep a steady voice. Flight attendants went through the seats, checking if everyone had their seat belts and oxygen masks correctly adjusted. Passengers, terrified, prayed in silence or cried discreetly, seeking comfort in such a difficult moment. "The plane is going to crash, and we're going to die," shouted a desperate woman. "We're going to die! We're going to die!" echoed another tearful voice. Jane was terrified, clinging to her mother and trying to understand what was happening. The pilot announced that the only option was to make an emergency landing. The crew instructed passengers on the impact position, preparing everyone for a forced landing. Tension in the cabin was palpable, and silence prevailed as everyone held on, preparing for the impending impact. The plane began to descend rapidly, and everyone felt the increase in gravity as they approached the ground. The flight attendant announced for everyone to remain in their positions, but no one could predict what would happen next. Suddenly, amid the darkness and silence, a flash illuminated the plane's cabin. Lightning struck the aircraft again, causing a deafening roar. Lights flickered, and for a moment, everything fell into complete silence. When the lights came on again, the aircraft was stable. A sense of relief swept through everyone on board, but tension still lingered. The pilot announced that they had managed to avert the worst and were regaining control of the aircraft. At this critical moment, the flight attendant captured everyone's attention. She explained that due to the lightning strike, the plane's electrical systems were compromised and an urgent solution was needed. Access to the maintenance compartment to reconnect electrical cables and restore the aircraft's controls was necessary. However, a problem arose. Access to the maintenance compartment was only possible from the outside of the aircraft. The co-pilot, who was also an engineer, suggested that inside the plane there was a small opening through which a very small person could reach the compartment. Flight attendants explained the situation to passengers, informing them that they needed a child to perform this task. It was at this moment that Kate raised her hand, indicating her daughter. "My daughter is small. Maybe she can help," said Kate. The flight attendant approached Kate and explained the situation again, this time in terms that Jane could understand. She explained that they needed her to connect the correct cables and save everyone on board. "It's a bit scary, Jane, but you are our only hope. Do you have enough courage to try?" asked the flight attendant. Jane hesitated, but her mother encouraged her. "You're the bravest person Mom knows, Jane. You can do this." With that, Jane agreed to help. The flight attendant led the mother and daughter to the pilot, who explained where Jane should enter to connect the cables. The cables needed to be reconnected in a certain sequence, and the co-pilot would give instructions through the radio. Before entering the compartment, Jane received a proud hug from her mother and encouragement from the flight attendant. Then, with a determined look, little Jane began to crawl through the tight space toward the loose cables. The compartment was dark and cramped, making it difficult to breathe. Jane could only see thanks to a small flashlight the flight attendant had given her. Meanwhile, passengers prayed and offered words of encouragement to the brave little girl. The co-pilot began giving instructions to Jane through the radio. "Okay, Jane, do you see the blue wire? Can you plug it into the blue hole for me?" patiently asked the co-pilot. "Yes, I can," replied Jane, scared, her hands trembling. With determination, she connected the wire in the right place. The cabin's silence was only interrupted by the co-pilot's voice, giving instructions, and Jane's gentle voice responding. "Now, see the red wire. Can you plug it into the red hole?" continued the co-pilot, admiring the little girl's courage. Time seemed to stand still. Everyone was tense, but little by little, Jane managed to connect all the cables in the correct order. Finally, it was time to connect the last wire, the green one. "You've been amazing, Jane. Ready for the last one? Just put the green wire into the green hole and the blue wire into the blue hole, and it's done," said the co-pilot, his voice conveying the hope shared by everyone on board. With sweaty hands and a racing heart, Jane connected the last wire. Instantly, the airplane lights came on and control systems returned to normal. A collective sigh of relief and joy filled the cabin. Applause and cheers echoed in the cabin as Jane exited the compartment. Her mother cried with pride and joy as she hugged her little heroine. The flight attendants also moved, thanked Jane. The pilot, with an emotional voice, conveyed his gratitude over the radio. "Thank you, Jane. You're a brave girl, and thanks to you, we can continue our flight safely. You saved us." Jane's story became known worldwide, serving as proof that even the smallest among us can achieve extraordinary feats. From that moment on, Jane became known as the girl who saved a plane with her bravery and determination, facing fear and danger. With the controls restored and flight safety ensured, the journey continued without further issues. When the plane finally landed, the airport was in great commotion, as all staff already knew of Jane's incredible feat. Passengers and airport staff applauded Jane as she exited the plane, wearing a smile from ear to ear. As a reward for her bravery, The airline gifted Jane and her mother with free airline tickets for a year. Finally, mother and daughter could embark on the trip of their dreams to Disney, where they created unforgettable memories and lived the best moments of their lives. Jane's story became a global inspiration, highlighting that courage and determination can overcome even the most challenging moments. Jane transformed into a true heroine, symbolizing the strength found in seemingly small actions. Upon returning home, Kate and Jane faced life with a new perspective. The trip not only provided moments of joy but also strengthened the bond between mother and daughter. The journey showed Jane that, despite difficulties, she could overcome obstacles and make a difference. Jane's story remained alive in the memory of everyone who knew her, reminding us that even in the most adverse of situations, the courage of one person can change the course of events and inspire the world. If you enjoyed this story, surely the next video that appears on your screen will also move you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.